What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that I thought was a little bit interesting that happened yesterday at this point. Actually, this should be 2 days at this point, but anyways, on November 16th, WrestleVotes took to the Bird app with a tweet that I thought was very, very interesting. I'm going to read it out loud to you right now, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it. So they said, within the origins of this NXT 2.0 concept was an idea that the program's rating would shift from TV-PG to TV-14. Source confirms that's still very much on the table, and USA Network is not opposed. If/when WWE decides to make the change is to be determined. So that leads to the discussion for today, which is, will NXT changing to TV-14 help increase their ratings? And it seems like the whole entire concept behind NXT 2.0 is the good old classic South Park, how do I reach these kids? And so far it's not working. So far it's not working. I don't know why this is, and I guess I can speculate onto why, but NXT's, even black and gold NXT, their predominant viewership is in the 50s, in the 50 plus. Older people love themselves some NXT. And I thought that, the rebrand, I thought that was actually going to change it. Like, I actually thought that they wouldn't like the bright colors, they wouldn't like the presentation, but honestly, nothing has changed. They've lost a couple 100,000 viewers, like maybe 100,000, 200,000 here and there. Like, I still don't think it's leveled out, but so far it's still pretty much predominantly 50 plus, their viewership. And I think, if I had to speculate, which is what I'm going to do right now, I think it's because NXT kind of resembled what wrestling once was back in the day. And I think that's a reason why I was really drawn to NXT as well. As it felt more like I was watching the WWE from the past that I loved. Not necessarily like the Attitude Era or whatever, but it gave you those vibes of what you liked from those eras, from the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like, it just gave you those vibes. It felt like you were watching a show that you really enjoyed. And it was really, funny enough, it was the alternative to WWE program. For those people who weren't really into Raw or SmackDown, WWE magically had this third brand, this developmental brand, NXT, that a lot of people enjoyed. And now they've really gone through and they've taken it and they've turned it into a main roster product. And it seems like it's turned off a lot of the hardcore NXT people, but the 50 plus is still, they're thriving for NXT. I don't know. That's the only explanation that I can come up with what makes sense. But I don't know. If you have any opinions on that, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to go through and read them. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. I talked about this on Instagram the day that it was posted, but I wanted to make a video to kind of go more in depth. Okay. What can we expect from a TV-14 rating from NXT 2.0? For me, I think it pretty much tells me that we're going to get more curse words. They've been pushing that envelope a lot, and it seems like less clothing. They've been pushing that a lot as well. And Toxic Attraction has pretty much been leading the way for the women's division in NXT since this whole 2.0 thing has started. They are, Mandy Rose is the women's NXT champion right now, and JC Jane and Gigi Dolan are currently the women's tag team champions. So they're holding all of the women's championship gold there in 2.0 so far. So the thing is, how does any of that fix the problems that people see in NXT? More curse words doesn't fix bad booking issues. Less clothing, more sex appeal doesn't fix bad booking issues. It doesn't fix stories. It doesn't fix anything, really. At least not in my opinion. That's not necessarily something that I look for in a wrestling TV show. Like, if it's there, cool, and it has a place, cool, I don't mind it. But I also don't like anything that's really forced. People trying to like force being offensive or cool, I guess, if you will, for that matter, when they're trying to reach kids, like, that stuff is just really unappealing to me. It's always been really unappealing to me. I've never liked things like that are forced. So I'm not even necessarily sure that this is what kids want these days. I mean, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm in my 30s. So I don't know what do I know? What do I know these days, right? But you know, like the thing too is that like if all it took is for women to wear less clothing for you to watch NXT, like why are you even bothering watching wrestling and all of this stuff? You know that you can get that stuff elsewhere on the internet. Like you just have to Google it, right? It's just a Google search away. So I don't even understand how stuff like that, how they think that things like that could just make a show better and more appealing. Like I don't know. So on the flip side of that, on things that I think that could actually benefit them from going TV-14 is maybe the return of blood. We haven't seen very much blood unless it's accidental. Anytime there's ever any blood on a WWE product, all the pictures and videos from that match or moment, they are turned to black and white photos. So I don't know, maybe something like that could make an appearance in 2.0 and help. More violence, of course, as well, I think could help. For someone like Joe Gacy and Harlan, like I think they could probably play some cool storylines with that and being more violent. Obviously Tony D'Angelo, you know, with having someone sleep with the fishes or something like that, a little more violence, I think it could work. But on the flip side, you have to remember that this is a developmental program now. They've shifted back to developmental. So if you're allowed to do this here, what happens when, let's say, Harland, right, who's got this crazy looking gimmick, he's violent. How does that translate when they have to get moved to the main roster and that's not acceptable anymore? A lot of people think that this may be some sort of test for main roster WWE, but I don't see it being that way. I don't know if that's something that USA or Fox would allow. I'm not even sure that's something that WWE would want to allow, since they've gone with more of a family friendly shift here in the later years. More blood, more violence with all this weird colorful stuff seems kind of odd as well. I feel like that would have been way more helpful back in the Triple H era, the Papa H era, the black and gold era of NXT that we all love and miss so much. Like, yeah, it got really rocky towards the end, and I think that's because they interjected, and that's a story for another video. My thoughts on NXT 2.0, which will be coming soon. I promise. I promise. But yeah, I think that would have been more useful on the black and gold brand of NXT. I think it would have fit more. It was darker. It was more grungier, like grimy. I think it would have fit in there perfectly. But something to keep in mind is that they never needed it. NXT 1.0 was fine. Well, if you want to call it 1.0, black and gold, it was fine. It didn't need any of that. And they were doing just fine before they entered into this Wednesday Night War. And mostly they were doing fine in it until the very end. Like pretty much once it seemed like Vince threw in the white towel or white flag, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, that's when things really started to shift and go and decline for NXT. But before that, I thought they were still great. It was still a fun show to watch. And I don't know, it was just a downfall, but they never needed to try to be edgy. They never needed it. And I will go back to this always. I will always revert to this for WWE, is that it seems like there's always a million excuses and a million different gimmick ways to somehow fix these shows other than what they really need to do. We saw a while ago, well, what was this, 2 years ago or so, when they turned the third hour of Raw to Dark Raw or whatever. Like the theme was black and it was dark and anything could happen and anything could go because it was the third hour. Like they tried to excite the third hour. Then we had Raw Underground, which was a gimmick as well to try to keep viewership, increase viewership in the third hour. When it's like, in the long run, you don't need these gimmicks. You don't need these gimmicks. You want to know what will make people tune in and make people want to watch your wrestling show? Better booking and better storylines. That's what it all boils down to. We don't need all of this extra nonsense. Just create a good show. That's it. And the example that I'm going to use for this is Disney. Disney makes tons of children's movies, right? But they somehow managed to make those children's movies entertaining enough for adults. and adults even like just like them. The idea is that you have to bring your child to the movies and you don't want to because you don't want to watch this movie, but somehow they make them entertaining enough that adults want to watch them, and the adults watching that enjoy watching them as well. So why can't you do that with a WWE product? It doesn't need to be edgy. It's not going to fix anything. And I'm sorry to tell you, throwing in some more blood, more violence, more curse words, less clothing, it isn't going to fix the bad booking decisions. It isn't going to fix creative. It isn't going to make certain people more popular. It's not going to make anything more interesting whatsoever. It's just going to be that. More blood, more violent, more curse words, and less clothing. That's it. That's it. It's time to stop looking for all sorts of gimmicks to fix the WWE product, and it's time to return to the basics. That's it. Make things make sense, make better booking decisions, and make people act like real people. That's it. Problem solved. You have yourself a successful format for a TV show, and then after that, you can go on and do all of the other things that you want. But until those basic things, those basic needs for a wrestling show are revisited, I don't think any of this is going to work. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. And honestly, I would love to start tuning into WWE products again. It's been so long since I've actually gone through and watched an episode of Raw or SmackDown. And I've even had to cut out NXT 2.0 because it's not for me anymore. It's not for me. So anyways, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you think if NXT goes TV-14, do you think that will help them in the ratings? Do you think that will appeal to these kids? Do you think that that will finally help them reach the kids that they're looking for? Let me know down below. I'll be going through all of the comments. And if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.